Welcome to Theology Savage. We're considering the word righteousness, a biblical term that we find throughout the scriptures. And rather than just give a bunch of definitions, I thought I would share a parable that Jesus told some of those who were following him. He said, and this is actually a parable of judgment to the religious leaders who think they have it all together. It says, he also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and treated others with contempt. Now, which of us likes people who are self-righteous and look down upon others and treat others with contempt? It's kind of hard to like those people. And Jesus speaks words of judgment here to them. He says, two men went up to the temple to pray. You see, the temple was a place where you go to pray, to offer worship, to commune with God, to meet God in a certain sense. And these two go up to the temple to pray. One a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. So Pharisees were the religious leaders of the day. Tax collectors were despised. They worked for the Romans. They collected taxes and probably skimmed off the top from their fellow countrymen Jews. And so even the characters Jesus has chosen for this story is quite scandalous. Two people who seem like at opposite ends of the spectrum, a religious, upright guy and of course a scoundrel tax collector. And they're both going to the temple to pray. And remember, he's telling this story to those who think they're righteous and look down on others with contempt. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed, "Thus, God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector." So obviously they go up to the temple at the same time. He thanks God he's not like other people. Looks down on this tax collector. "I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all I get." So you see, he thinks he has it together. He fasts. He's not like other people. He's not a terrible sinner. He thinks he's righteous. And let's look at the tax collector's prayer, and then of course which one God accepts and why. "But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, 'God, be merciful to me, a sinner.'" You see, the tax collector is humble. He won't even look. He doesn't presume to have it together. Beats his breast and seeks the Lord's mercy. Very, very beautiful prayer. "God, be merciful to me, a sinner." I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. So you see, the tax collector is the one who went home justified or declared righteous, or just in the sight of God. Not because he wasn't a sinner, not because he was righteous, but because he acknowledged that he wasn't righteous, that he was a sinner, and he pleads the Lord's mercy. That is his hope. That is his plea. That is his trust as he stands before that temple, not even able to lift his eyes and to pray presumptuously. Where you see the Pharisee, of course, this is told to the religious leaders who trust in themselves and who think they're righteous, and certainly they would have got worked up when they heard this, or they could have owned up to the fact that they weren't righteous and sought the Lord for mercy and looked to the Christ, who is filled with mercy and love and compassion. And so it's a beautiful parable as it relates to righteousness. No one is righteous, no, not one. The scriptures are pretty clear there. Not because God is evil or God is bad, but because of sin and its corruption and the works that are done that fail to perfectly meet God's standard of love. And so the only hope, the only prayer that's acceptable, the only one that allows one to go home justified before God is, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." It's those who aren't proud of their sin, but who own their sin. That is being humble, at least in the sight of Christ here. Be blessed.